A very good morning to you. This is K24 this morning. We're inching closer to Christmas, but right here, of course, we're making sure we still keep a keen eye on the news and give you that much-needed analysis even as we get into the festive season proper. Welcome to the show. Hope your weekend was well. My name is Jeff Mote. If you're joining us for the first time, what we do is look at the big stories making headlines across your dailies and take some of these issues and dig a bit deeper and get some context and analysis to what they really mean for you and me. So, as always, we love it when you're part of the discussion that we are having right here in studio. We love it when you chime in the conversations. You can get me on Twitter at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. There's a WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen as well, and you can send in your feedback, your comments, your thoughts on the WhatsApp number there as well. If you haven't gotten yourself a copy of your People Daily, you can do that from the luxury and convenience of your phone, and the number that you dial is *550*4#. Once again, the number is *550*4#. Dial that number and get yourself a copy of your People Daily straight to your phone. It's brought to you by the People Daily and Safaricom. And the best thing about it is that you don't need any mobile app, you don't need any data on your phone, just that magic USSD number, *550*4#. And as you proceed to download your e-paper, this is a headline that you'll be getting this morning. As you can see right there, front and center. Let's have it up on screen. Let's scroll up. Fresh clash over signature budget. This isn't the first time we've had this back and forth as to really how much a referendum would cost. This time round, the Electoral Commission has requested 241 million shillings for verification, but BBI Secretariat bosses say the amount is exaggerated as process can be completed with just a few millions. Who's the expert when it comes to this particular matter? This is what's going on there as we have a back and forth between Dennis Owero, one of the co-chairs of the Secretariat, and IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati. This story is on page 4 of your People Daily. You can get all the details therein. And of course, also, it's a showdown tomorrow in Msambweni as Msambweni candidates did the last-minute pitch for votes over the weekend. As you can see there, Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho with Msambweni ODM aspirant Omar Boga. This campaign in Ukunda on Saturday. After Saturday, of course, each team closed their campaigns at that particular front as they wait for the polls on Tuesday. That story can be found in your copy of your People Daily with all the details therein. Let's go up. Chickens come home to roost for ex-lands boss Gashanja. Powerful Moi-era official has been shuttling from one courtroom to another, defending himself against accusations of aiding public land grabbing. Big question is, at the end of this, do you get justice? Is it not only served, but seen to be served? This story is on page 6 of your People Daily, and you can get all the details therein. Let's look at the front page of the Standard now. Let's have that up. Why they love BBI. The promise of an expanded executive has taken the sting out of electoral defeat and created a bypass to the seat of power for top politicians. With key positions enshrined in law, it would be easier to form coalitions as well as to posture for the national interest, making the next election the first win-win contest for the big boys. So, as they always said, they're really at the back of their minds. They wanted to diffuse the tensions when it comes to a winner-takes-all type of election. But is this how it's best served, and is this really what the electorate needs? As you can see, the story you can get on page 5 of your Standard rather. And of course, let's not forget, even over the weekend, the president did make a really passionate plea, calling this the constitutional moment and calling what they envisage moving forward a constitution of hope. This is on page 5 of your Standard. You can get the details there. Let's look at the front page of the Daily Nation now. Uhuru faces big test of a pay rise for civil servants. A pay increase for teachers and state workers will further drain government finances, which are already distressed by a rising debt burden and plunging revenues due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the president could be forced to honor the deal to win support for the Building Bridges initiative. And just the wording on how this has been put and as to why he needs to play ball, so to speak, you can get the details of that therein on page 4. And even as you look at that, we're talking about a referendum, Mps Demand Funds. MPs allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM party leader Raila Odinga now want Treasury to release funds for the verification of BBI signatures without parliamentary approval. How do they move forward on this particular front? As you can see, that story can be found on page 5 of your Daily Nation. You can get all the details therein. Let's look at the front page of your Star now, very quickly. BBI shut eyes to audit calling for fewer legislators. Kenya spends an average of 20.6 million shillings annually on one MP, 7 million shillings on staff as far as they're concerned. And with all that's going on, and especially now under the grey cloud of COVID-19, is this the best way to exercise our expenditure? It's a key question moving forward. And you can find the details of that story on page 4 and 5 of your star therein. And even as you look at that, of course, finally, front page of the Business Daily, it's all about matters economics right there and finance. Banks accuse CBK of controlling loan rates. Top bankers worry the regulator is silent on their request to price credit according to client profiles. And of course, this being as an especially tough year for banks seeing unprecedented defaults on loans as far as they're concerned. So how do they make it into the new year and move forward? That story is on the front page of your Business Daily. You can also get the details of that story on page 4. And as if that's not enough, another sector that was hard hit due to COVID-19 was the hospitality sector. Testament to that is a story on the front page of the Business Daily still. Radisson Blu shuts its Upper Hill outlet, sends staff home as well. This, of course, attributed to how COVID-19 has affected their business and how really the business model right now is unsustainable from where they stand. That story can be found as well in your copy of your Business Daily. So these are the headlines that you're waking up to right now. This is what you'll be finding in your copies of your dailies as you get up. But right here on the show, we're talking about the fight against corruption. Where does it stand right now? What's the state of this particular fight? It's even been, it's one of the key pillars as far as the BBI is concerned. How we move forward in this particular issue is what we'll be discussing right here on the show. But let's also set the stage on this, because when you try and look at how we fight corruption, let's look at one case, two different countries, and how this worked. We've even forgotten about it as a country moving forward. Let's talk about Chicken Gate. This was a scandal that had both IEBC officials in Kenya and also UK citizens of the company Smith and Usman. Same case, two totally different approaches and verdicts on this one's moving forward. Let's take a look at this story that was filed in 2010.
The officials of Smith and Osman printing firm that specializes in security documents such as certificates, examination and ballot papers were accused of fraudulently paying 47 million shillings to Kenyan officials as a bait to be awarded the IEBC tender. The officials, former chairman of the firm John Smith and marketing director Nicholas Charles, were accused of involving themselves in underhand deals using coded emails that used subjects like chicken. The two are due for sentencing in the London court in February next year. The international sales manager Tim Foster and company agent Abdul Rahman Omar were off the hook after being acquitted. The offences are said to have taken place between November 2008 and December 2010 and implicated officials from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission and the Kenya National Examination Council.
Well, that is how things actually play out. This was a story that was done, in 2016, as that was as they served, as they were charged for this particular issue, and their sentences read out. And that's something we'll be talking about right here on the show. And it's a good thing because I have a room full of lawyers. How can you go wrong with this one? Let's start in studio, joined by Oliver Karori. He's an advocate of the High Court, and the one lawyer I know who's still a Sunday school teacher. Hi, Oliver. Welcome to the show.
Asante sana.
Asante sana. Thank you for making time to be on the show this morning.
How was your weekend?
It was fantastic. How was yours?
You look like you're not over it.
Well, we shall survive Monday. That much I can tell you. Also joined by an advocate of the High Court, Mr. Dan Achach. First time on the show. Karibu sana, Bwana Dan.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Asante sana for making time to be on the show.
Asante.
Thank you so much. Joining the conversation via Skype, a governance expert as well, Millie Luanga. Good morning, Millie.
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was really calm.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic stuff. I want us to start from that particular point where we're talking about the Chicken Gate scandal. Same crime actually perpetrated in Kenya and another country. The people who are involved in this in the UK did the time, paid around 300 million Kenya shillings, that's 2.2 million pounds, and have since been released because it was a 3-year sentence, went in 2016. By 2019, they were out. Yet, Millie, here in Kenya, we are still going around. We still don't know how to get the evidence, how to seal this particular case. What usually goes wrong? Millie, if you can hear me.
I think that one of the biggest problems we have as a country is that we have allowed politics to a large extent to permeate our fight against corruption. Therefore, anytime you see the agencies that are working, corruption, working, there is some strong political maneuvers, so we believe. And anytime when they are not working, even then, the machinations behind them that are guiding the process. And I think that is where we have failed, because we have completely refused the arm of the executive constant that must exist even outside whatever political leadership we have in the House at any given time, and left it as independent. If we did that.
Okay, there's an issue there. We'll sort out that technical issue very quickly. Let me bring it to studio as well. Dan, it's the same chicken gate story, same players on this one. On one side of, the divide, they've paid their fines, they've done their time. Yet here we can't quite get to the bottom of really what went wrong.
Yeah, I personally think the chicken gate story is a classic example of or a demonstration that as a country we've not even started fighting corruption. In my view, I think all we do is to play to public relations really. Mm-hmm. If you look at the history of the war, the so-called the war on graft in this country, from the days of Harun Mao, the Kenya Anti-Corruption Authority, coming through to Ringera, to PLO, and what we have now, you realize that we form bodies or institutions that we call institutions that are supposed to fight graft, yet we do not give them the space or the mandate, so to speak, to be independent in a way that they would be able to fight this graft. And for me, in my view, I think we lack political leadership, but as a people also, as Kenyans, I do not think Kenyans have gotten to that level that we are angry enough against graft. Mm-hmm. And I say this because look at our political leadership. We are the people who elect them to these positions. I think it has become like a system that in Kenya, you get a position, you steal money, you become wealthy, then you go for a political office. And then, as the electorates, we rally behind you, and then we elect you. Then when we put you in that position, you go on stealing, and then we start complaining our leaders are corrupt. Right. So I think for me, it's a question that cuts across both at the political leadership and also questions on us as the electorates. Okay.
Oliver, is it an ethos question? Is it a legal question? Where do we go wrong with this one? Because surely, at this point in time, 10 years on, is it that we don't have a capable prosecution or investigative unit to get to the bottom of this? Or is it, as Dan saying, just as Kenyans, we are now comfortable with corruption?
Thank you, Jeff. I wouldn't say really it is a legal question. We have so much legal instruments and the legal infrastructure of fighting corruption everywhere. Look at from every perspective. But what we lack is, I think, the societal mannerism to fight graft. Corruption has permeated in all our sectors of life to an extent that it is part of us. Look at it this way. How many handshakes happen every day between policemen and conductors in this, just Nairobi alone? As we speak here, how many are happening? You go to Ngong Road, Mbagathi, where it is. And when we talk about corruption, Kenyans assume the graft we are dealing with is the multi-billion graft. No. All of it, that small corruption affects us all the way to the top. Mm-hmm. But what must also be dealt with, I have always faulted the process of which we fight corruption in this country. 1 year ago, there was the bushfire of fighting corruption in this country. Every Kamata Friday and all that. But I use, as a person who have worked closely at the anti-corruption court, I have defended clients there, I have cases ongoing there. There is never a single day when the Auditor General's documents are used as evidence in court, which leaves you with a question, how do we arrive at why we arrest Mote and not a church? That is where we begin. And that is where there is political gerrymandering, where we allow the political class to determine which case goes to court and which one doesn't. There are cases of pure witch hunt, which ends up harming the fight against corruption, because people lose the faith in the institutions tasked with fighting corruption. Where are the cases of Kimwarer and Aror as we speak? Where is the case of Waititu, governor? How far has it gone? It has been more than 2 years since he was arraigned in court. The law talks about 24 months for those who stepped aside. What happens to them? And then again, Jeff, there is an injustice that is perpetrated in this country. The law says that immediately you take plea, you step aside and you are on half salary for 24 months. That law fails to complement the demand it puts on civil servants with now protecting their rights post-plea. Because you take plea, you step aside, the case drags on for 4 years, you are still on half salary. Right. There is an injustice there, which the law ought to remedy it by saying all corruption cases must be concluded within this time when somebody has stepped aside, because it goes against the Article 50 rights.
Right.
And what we also need to do, we need also to talk to Kenyans. Kenyans have high appetite for blood. When Kenyans are told today we have arrested a minister, they are very happy. But 2 days, 3 days later, they don't care what happened to the minister who was arrested. For them, they are just after seeing blood. When the blood is already spilled, they move on to another target. And at the end of the day, that derails our fight against corruption.
Okay.
How many people have we ever convicted, apart from Waluke, who I honorably disagree with that ruling? That is the only person I think so far we have convicted about corruption. The rest is still a circus. It is, as my friend talks about, just a public relation exercise.
I want us to also have a question of the day. We'd love you to chime in on the conversation on this, even as we move it forward. We're talking about the fight against graft. Let's have that up on screen. What do you think is the weakest link in the fight against corruption in Kenya? What do you think is the weakest link in the fight against corruption in Kenya? There's a WhatsApp number on the bottom of the screen. You can also tweet me at @IamJeffMote or at K24TV. Dan, when you talk about the weak link when it comes to corruption, there's a time when there's a lot of finger pointing going on. The DPP saying we're not getting enough evidence from the DCI pointing at the DPP, everyone pointing at the judiciary. And as a Kenyan, you sit back and wonder, okay, fine, so who should take the blame on this? Really, who is dropping the ball? Why aren't you getting, as Oliver is saying, successful convictions?
Yeah, I think, in my view, it's not about, I think, fight against corruption is not about how many people we arrest. It's not about how do we arrest them, because we've seen the DPP, doing a lot of fanfare when it comes to arresting individuals who are accused of corruption. I think this blame game between the DPP and the DCI, between the DPP and the judiciary, is actually, for me, it's a fallacy. You see, the judiciary, a judge sitting in court will only decide a case based on the evidence that you present to them. If you do not present the evidence, irrespective of how many policemen you use to arrest that person, irrespective of how the media covers the case, I mean, the guy will not be convicted. I think we really need to work. For me, I think we really need to work on our investigations and the kind of evidence that we present in court. Corruption is one of the most delicate and complicated crimes. It's a white-collar crime. In most times, the people who are involved in it are very sophisticated fellows, and so it's not an open and shut case. And so even the investigations have to be that complicated for you to get a conviction. And so for me, from what I see in court, from what I see happening, I think we really need to work on our investigations. I think we are doing more of, pleasing the citizens, showing them that, look, we've arrested a high member of the society. We've arrested a politician, as opposed to looking at, do we have enough evidence to convict these people?
Right.
At the end of the day, for me, it's not about arrest. We've also had clamor, like now people are saying, oh, you see, KEMSA happened. We've not seen any arrests. For me, it's not about seeing an arrest. I mean, we can wake up tomorrow and arrest however many people we want to arrest. But how do we secure conviction? Because it's only a conviction for me that would then send a strong message that we are fighting against graft.
Okay.
So we really have to work on our investigation process for me.
Millie, I think we have you back on, if I can have you in on this particular conversation. I'm like, we're talking about the fact right now where it stands, the DCI, DPP on this one. There was a time when we really thought and had a lot of faith in Nordin Haji and George Kinoti and said that these ones are the duo that would lead us to the promised land in terms of fighting corruption. And then that fire sort of fizzled out. In your perspective, where did we go wrong?
I think that when we are critics to play a bigger role than is needed in the fight against corruption, then we lost the agenda. Because particularly when you look at the latest case in the House, the KEMSA scandal, the allegations that there were names that are highly connected is something that caused many Kenyans to stand on alert and to be very keen to see how the investigation and this process would proceed. But we have seen a game of cat and mouse play. We really don't know to what extent we can blame the president, because he has consistently told us that his hands are tied. He has consistently directed institutions to act, and they do not act despite his directives. And therefore, we are left at loss as a nation as to why this is still remaining so. Now, I think that maybe some of the proposals that have been placed in BBI, they actually, hopefully, strengthen the institutions that are meant to fight against corruption, because when they deal with issues such as concealment of corruption, amongst other things, which are things that we had perhaps not been able to deal with more aggressively in the past, then if we have that strong an institution, hopefully we will be able to fight against corruption. Look at the past. When we had a corruption body that was actually trying to fight against corruption, we saw parliamentarians sit and disband it in a day in parliament and do away with it. We saw that when we had people sitting in there that seemed to be keen in fighting corruption, people messed with the law, and that is why we said, let us put it in the Constitution. Now, the manner in which it had been placed in the Constitution, I think did not give it as much clout as we had anticipated. So hopefully, if we do have that change and we have a strong institution that then is able and is well-funded, is able to fight, to investigate and bring forward many numerous cases of corruption, we may actually begin to see a shift in the country.
Oliver, there was a time when the president had really spoken tough, was talking tough concerning corruption. He asked for polygraph tests to be done on civil servants, public declarations of wealth to be put into the records as well. And then that also sort of died a slow death. Leading from the front, what does he need to do? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we'll always talk about the backstopping there. Some people are saying he did everything. He resourced his departments, walked the talk, yet here we are still talking about grand graft, even at that level.
At times, you really have to sympathize with Uhuru Kenyatta. He speaks very good speeches, but vitu kwa ground, kuna shida kidogo. Because look at it this way. If today Uhuru Kenyatta addresses parliament in the State of the Nation address, but a traffic cop is taking bribe there, what is he supposed to do? Mm-hmm. Those are some of the basic things that I tell you, fighting corruption is not about that or the person leading. Even if Jesus Christ was to come here today and lead this country, the fight against corruption is a fight that must come from within Kenyans.
How do we do that? How do you make, is it national ethos? Is it the BBI that solves this?
No. BBI is part of the corruption we are talking about
So, okay,
here.
Then in that case, how do we solve this thing?
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, Jeff. There is a problem in this country, and a great problem. People who are a product of corrupt political processes cannot provide answers to corrupt economic practices. Corruption permeates our politics and our economy. If you are a result of a political fraud, where you've been conning people on how you come to power, let's take, for example, the basic things. Do our politicians honor their pledges? They don't. They just say their pledges as part of the sweet melodies to Kenya so that they are voted in. After they have them being voted in and without honoring pledges, if they do not honor what they pledge to fellow politicians, how do you expect them to have the wherewithal to bring ideas to change the country? Mm-hmm. That's why, for me, I have always looked the other side to find solutions for Kenya, but not in politicians. Politicians are like hawkers. They just do that. They hawk. It doesn't matter who buy their wares. The end result is that they have money.
Dan, I want to come to you. You have 30 seconds before we get to our first break. As Oliver says, the political process has so many problems therein, it's hard to get a solution from there. Where do we turn to for solutions? You say it's you and me, but you and me are the same ones who, when the policeman comes, you'll reach out for your 50 shillings.
I personally think we still have to go back to the political class to get the solution. I am a strong believer that if we were to get a leader in this country at the level of the president who truly is out to fight corruption and is able to demonstrate to the rest of the republic that we are in this war against corruption together, we would start seeing results. I say this because if you look back at the elections we had in the year 2002, when NAC came into power, there was this drive among the political leadership and even among the people themselves that the new regime is against corruption. And we saw people at that time, the ordinary Kenyans, arresting police officers and dragging them to police stations for taking bribe in matatus. And so if we're able to get to that level where we have the leadership that we believe is fighting corruption and is not playing politics with us, I believe that's what we require. And I mean, we've seen this in other places.
Okay.
We've seen countries that have presidents or leaders who are able to convince their people that, look, we are in this together. We are fighting corruption. We are not playing politics. And if you are corrupt, irrespective of whatever political affiliation you have, irrespective of what your surname is, we will deal with you according to the law.
I want to take a short break. Oliver, I want to come back at the short break on this one, because even as you say that, I think the president said that his line is off. If you're caught in a corrupt case, you can't call anymore. That is done and dusted. So I don't know what it means when you say we need to lead from the front.
Actually, that is where the problem is. When he says my phone is off, it means that he has been part of the problem. Why did you allow your phone to come into the processes of anti-corruption?
We're taking a short break at this particular point in time. We come back after the break. You'll also be sampling your views on this one as far as corruption is concerned. What do you think is the weakest link when it comes to the fight against corruption? The WhatsApp number is at the bottom of the screen. You can also get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. We're back after a short break.